Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? We are sailing off into another international dead zone, and we've finished the Martin O'Neill initial interim era with, I think we would say, pass marks. We took maximum points from our two games in the league. We progressed past Rangers in the semi-final, and away to the mighty midgets. I guess we could have chalked that one up as going the way it would have went, kind of really no matter what the situation. And coming out of the Kilmarnock game especially, the match we'll be breaking down today, we had lots of positive developments come out of, not just on the pitch, but I would certainly say off the pitch as well, because in the Martin O'Neill interim era, a lot of the conversation that's been going around it, or a lot of the, I guess, window dressing around the situation is like, oh, how nice is wee old Martin, and how funny is he, and all that kind of stuff. But it felt like coming into this game, Martin O'Neill really the manager really returned in a lot of ways. We had a suit on before the game, and I really just felt his whole, the way he carried himself through the game was very different to the last couple of matches we've seen, where it was kind of maybe the first game where he's feeling like shaking off a wee bit of the ring rust, and he's managed to get back in there, and we've managed to strike out a bit of a knockout punch here in the weekend against Kilmarnock. And now that we're setting off into this international break, we've got Martin O'Neill in interim charge. We've got no real clear front runner at the moment, although ample opportunity for that to change in the international break for the current vacancy as Celtic first team manager. So there's a lot to go on, as I say, off the pitch and on the pitch, off the back of this game and in the breakdown today. At any point in the video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We're very, very close to getting to 15,000 subscribers, but you guys who have been here for a while know our goal is to get to 18,888. International breaks is always a great time on the channel because we do our best to get daily topical content out there for you. So if you do enjoy content like this, please do subscribe for more. And as always, get into the comment section in this one and let me know your thoughts, feelings, your big takeaways from the game at the weekend, whether it be from anything in the dugout or anything on the pitch. But yeah, let's just get stuck straight into this one with a big shout out as well to all of our followers and subscribers over on Substack, getting instant access ad free over there, as well as all the stuff from the insider scoops and all the articles that we get here at CeltsAreHere. Because this team was a bit of a surprise when it came out from Celtic. I don't think anyone had JSP coming in to make his debut in this game. I do think Daizen Maeda was, maybe on the fence to start this one or not, depending on how you kind of view it with minutes and everything else. And with Arnie Engels going off injured, it was a three-way coin toss, for me anyway, between Rio Hatate, McKeown and Bernardo to feature in this one, alongside McGregor and Negren. But we actually get Rio and McKeown. We get the return of the three-wee guy midfield. I think the rest of the team pretty much did pick itself. A lot of you guys in the comments section in the preview to the game were saying it had to be Sirachi's moment to come back into the team, and he duly did, although it was quite short-lived. And Kilmarnock showed up as predicted from the preview stream video that we did before the game. And, it was interesting to see the return of the wee guy midfield. And when JSP does come into the starting lineup, a lot of people straight away, it's like, oh, could there be some sort of three at the back situation, or how will the team evolve? And for all intents and purposes, this was a real three at the back shape. There was large parts of this game where, whenever we were coming out from the defensive area, Trusty was borderline a sweeper. Trusty, actually had a very notable performance in this game. But I think it was the dynamic and the inclusion of JSP is what drew a lot of Celtic fans' attention coming into this game, and certainly is not a right back. And when we're playing this kind of off the ball back three type shape, it does just allow our other fullback, in this case the left back, to just be a lot more supportive of the left winger. And this was great to see in this game. We got a lot of joy down the left hand side with and without Sirachi, because Tuneke was able to get players 1v1, and even if he didn't, he would have some support in the form of either his left back or even coming from the midfield area on occasions, which was lovely. And we were able to actually just kind of focus a lot more down the left hand side in a game like this. And JSP off the ball kind of roamed into these types of pockets here and played some really nice balls. He had three long balls into the opposition in this game, where he's able to take it from this type of position here and play it into the box for either a direct shot on target or off target perhaps, or even just for the ball to start breaking down and maybe cause a bit of a goal scoring opportunity. And this is actually the first piece of footage that we have access to on the highlight package, where, as you can see, because of the very left-leaning nature of the team, we can kind of extrapolate where everyone is based on where they start to field in from. But the ball's been in over on the left-hand side, and we've switched it over to the right, and JSP has got acres of space around him and two very willing strikers in Maeda and Kenny, almost coming together in between the three centre-backs to be much more of a front two. And again, you're going to see in a minute that McKeown and Hatate came over, and from this position here, and you can tell the balls just kind of came, as does Tuneke as well. He kind of catches up with Sriracha, who's on the edge of the box here. And we then very quickly get that recurring theme that we got against Falkirk in particular, where as the defence retreats back into the box, we've got 5 guys up, willing and able to attack the cross. And we're getting, that the supply comes in there either from the right back, the left back, or on some occasions as well the midfield, depending on the break of the ball. But when it's been in this right back area, Ralston has had, in even the Martin O'Neill interim era, Ralston can play great balls in from this position as well, and it was good to see big JSP, clearly much more of a centre-back, offering that sort of outlet, just from a standing position, a static and a statuesque kind of setup, where, again, this is something very repeatable from the training ground into the game, where he can just float the ball into the right area and get the strikers and get the attackers to do their job. We don't win the first header on the occasion from this ball here, but as you can see very quickly, we've got 5 players in the box. Hatate and McKeown very, very close together. And between, Tuneke and Maeda, we've got left, we've got everything kind of covered here positionally. So the break of the ball can be kind to us here. And this is something throughout the season we've really lacked. So many attacking opportunities like this. We've had very isolated figures, just like buried in the deep end with bodies of defenders around them. Very difficult to find. But we're trying to, with these types of direct balls from deep, give the opposition less time to set up and really fill the box up with their defence. And also given the impetus and the agency, I suppose, is probably a good word to use, for always to have 5 guys getting into the box to get on the end of things. And it comes from some really nice play again from Tuneke, where he's got 1.5 guys to beat here, depending on how you want to think of it. If he wants to go by them, he needs to beat 2 of them. But certainly to get a cross away, he's got to get by the man blocking him, and he cannot let the second boy interfere with it. And Tuneke does great to get a chance created here. Dyson Maeda just misses it. And having this kind of, inside right position, not just for the defence, but for Dyson Maeda, allows us to be, quite symmetrical. But there was a bit of a disconnect in this game, because Dyson Maeda, JSP was never going to go on and beyond with him here. So he was kind of falling victim in some cases of this match to what we've seen on the left-hand side in previous games, where it would either be really close to JSP, and then if they were going to try and get up the pitch, it's only really Dyson that's got all that ground to cover. They tried swapping fullbacks around. They really did struggle to handle, I would say, Tuneke on his side here. And it never really felt that Dyson, he had a few opportunities 1v1 against the guy that he had marking him, but there wasn't a high volume, and they weren't particularly dangerous, a lot of them, because if he was higher up the pitch, if he did get away from the fullback, again, just finding him was a lot more difficult, and he was just eventually coming in tighter with Kenny to form a little bit more of a front two. So Dyson was, in a kind of weird right wing position here. I was really glad to eventually see he got the goal, because he put in a huge shift in the match. But that was like an area that you definitely did feel that if they had the ability to, Kilmarnock wanted to go down their left-hand side, our right-hand side, although they took opportunities wherever they came from, because of course our left-backs got nice and high. So if they did have the opportunity to play long from the goalkeeper, which, they got a really good shot away from on one occasion, then they would just try and clip it into whatever spaces had opened up. But for me, one of the most interesting dynamics in this game was the return of the wee guy midfield, because we've seen Hatate, McKeown and McGregor all play together before under Rodgers, domestically especially. Luke McKeown just never really gets a look in Europe. And this midfield did resemble this kind of elbow shape for me, where Rio Hatate was very much more involved in the attack for large parts of this game. There was occasions where between the 3 of them, they would rotate really, really well, because they would be close together. They would be close by, and depending on the break of the ball, who would be collecting it from where, they did interplay very nicely and take up some different positions and kind of rotate is probably the best way of putting it. But make no mistake about it, it was very much more a case of McGregor and McKeown, almost being kind of stuck together as that kind of double pivot, as a lot of people like to say. But if you think about who did we just play, Midtjylland, their 2 midfielders, a lot more big strapping and European, you might say Billing and Bravo. But what McGregor and McKeown, some parallels there with the nameplay, isn't there, are doing there is, again, they're very much, 2 sides of the same coin. They both are quite happy to be positionally sound, want to attack space when they can, are very happy to go into the box, very happy to shoot from the edge of the box as well. And, again, McKeown has played this more, let's say, conservative kind of role for Dundee in the past before coming to Celtic. Since being at Celtic, normally when we see the 3 wee guy midfield, we're normally pushing Hatate and McKeown both up really, really high. And this did happen in spells of the game. McGregor was certainly the deeper of the three more often than not. But we would see games where, you know, McGregor would be like slingshotted, if you like, and he would take it. We actually had a bad breakaway that happened as a result of, I think, maybe McGregor, and then Hatate kind of struggled to stop a guy, didn't he? But it was actually really interesting to watch how the midfield went, because without Engels in the team, without Negren in the team, seeing these different players now playing the same role essentially, because if I think Engels has looked really good in the Martin O'Neill interim era in this slightly more, you know, just a midfielder position where you don't need to be right up on the front line and making all these intricate triangle passes and all the rest of it. You can actually just be where you are, influence the match, play the ball into space for your pal, and try and, you know, take opportunities as they get presented to you, sort of thing. And Negren, although we've seen him be marathon man under Rodgers and come back, like we've seen Negren do this type of job with McGregor previously, but since Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney has came in, he's been very much more like a support striker. He's been second man up there, and seeing Hatate really, like, and again, Hatate did do some defensive stuff here. There was times where he was the deeper one of the three, no two ways about it, in this kind of elbow shape again. But he was very much more responsible for just attacking, and I think we got a lot of good stuff out of Hatate. I think maybe even him just being dropped and benched in recent weeks was maybe just a nice little rest opportunity, because he does play all the time, but also that little bit of a wake-up call of, like, you know, like, you need to actually do it. It's not enough to huff and puff. You need to actually blow the house down here. And here we get a great example of that, because look how close, again, this is something I've really enjoyed, as you guys will know, right? But the proximity of one another that the midfield has just means that when we do turn the ball over, we can be very, very effective. This isn't one of the goals. This is a shot for Johnny Kenny off the post right before we opened the scoring here. But like I said, with having someone like McKeown next to McGregor, I'm always asking for McGregor to be the guy that breaks the lines, that takes the ball from deep and makes that killer run, play that killer ball that opens the team up for our front players. And, you know, it's just this unavoidability that he does tend to be just the deepest of the three, just with the current squad construction and all the sort of profiles of players we currently have. And having Engels next to him, even as we see later on in this game, has a lot of strengths, has a lot of qualities, and does offer us something really good in this kind of new look, kind of Celtic shape that we're taking up in midfield. But when McGregor plays this ball to McKeown here, McKeown does exactly what you would want a Callum McGregor player to do in this position, or what you would want in an ideal situation. You're putting Callum McGregor on the ball here, and what are you asking him to do? You're asking him to drive forward and play a smart pass into Johnny Kenny. Johnny Kenny's got a great distance between the centre backs, where one of them's not close enough and the other one's got him in the blind spot. And then with that full back there also playing him onside, there's just a really big opening. There's a really big opportunity here to kill this space and get a shot away. And again, this is a strength we've seen of Luke McKeown, a player that we've recently seen just being like an out and out like attacking midfield options for Celtic off the bench later in matches, particularly domestically. But coming from deeper there, he gives you that bit of a McGregor element of someone that just nips in quickly between the lines, takes 1 and 2 touch passes, doesn't mess about, it plays the ball straight into the striker, but keeps the run going into the box. We've got Dysamide in support, which is lovely as well. But if you look at where the midfield is now, Hatate's still out left, which is fine, but him, McGregor and McKeown, they're stretched out a little bit more, but they're still keeping their shape together. And this originally starts McKeown, for all intents and purposes, being the last defensive midfielder, because McGregor's been over here to confront the ball. Hatate has been kind of taken out the game with the way the recovery has went. And if we have not collected the ball out of this position here and Kilmarnock played it up the pitch, McKeown would be the first guy, or the primary guy you'd be looking at to be tracking back and, you know, covering the defence that are behind him here. Liam Scales, one centre back, is over here recovering. Austin Trusty's just out of frame, and then there's GSP, that kind of 3 at the back shape that we mentioned before. And for McKeown to, you know, I know we're very high up in the pitch here, but for him to go back to front like this, I even imagine somehow Johnny Kenny could have slipped that ball back through to him, by the way. I know that's not really a reasonable ask. You're always asking for the striker to take a shoot and a finish there. Ask a question to the keeper. Can Dysamide or somebody else get a rebound or a spill? Of course. But that's the sort of drive and that's sort of the energy that we want to see from the 3-wee guy midfield whenever we've had it before. And like I said, normally it's maybe resembled a bit more of a double attack midfield type situation, whereas in this one it was just a little bit more of like an elbow shape, where Hatate was very much up here on the upper left hand side, and between McGregor and McKeown, they had the ability to either go on and kind of mirror image that and be the fifth attacker in the equation. And even in extreme circumstances when we were really pushing them back into their own box, all 3 of them kind of go into the box and make something happen for us. With us being very left leaning, there was a lot of attention and there was a lot of pressure, I would say, on Sebastian Teneke, Seb the Reb, because he's definitely come into Celtic and hit the ground running, but he's starting to, I think a lot of Celtic fans are now like, okay, well, let's see some stuff now, let's actually hit the back of the net with a couple of shots, wee man, let's actually create some chances that result in goals. It's great you can take a man on, but we need to see a little bit more end product, and you know, I'm the first one to kind of give him the license here, or the slack, that he has been asked to do a lot really all by himself. This game was totally different with Sriracha and later with Tierney, but Kilmarnock in this game were wildly unprepared for Teneke. It took them a lot longer than everyone else I've seen us play against to get a second man over to shut down his options, because Sriracha, you know, and even Tierney, they're not always like overlapping him and really giving him that outside option to burn on the inside, which is a big thing that he wants to do. They had support for him in these areas, don't get me wrong, but more often than not, he was able to just get one-on-one with a guy and decide, I'm going to push you into the box from here, and then try and dart to the line and make something happen, or, you know, I'm going to get you on your heels here, then I'm going to dart into space from here and then try and clip a ball. And he was really able to decide himself, you know, how he wanted to play the game for a large part of this. And he works some absolute magic to really create the opportunity for the first goal here. He is basically 1v1 out here, but as soon as he beats this guy, because Hitate's got a man marking him, and if he goes towards that, that's just, you know, running into two guys. It's just, you know, Hitate would need to move, which eventually he does do, of course. But if he comes in on the inside, he's got two guys that are very ready to come and get him. So there's really 4 players to really worry about here for Teneke. Outside of that, he's only really got 3 to think about in terms of once he's created the opportunity, trying to make a space, trying to make an opportunity. Now, I think Teneke must get like high praise, high credit for creating this chance, because he takes his man into the box and he just manages to catch a mad moment of indecision and panic from really all of them. You know, they all kind of are just ball watching, all just kind of freeze for a moment. And I don't know if I think he is zinging this ball into Hitate. Of course, we know he's sliding it through this gate here at a real high speed, which makes me think he's maybe trying to play a run of like a Kenny, or maybe he's gambling on somebody like Maeda going across the front post, something like that. But the vision for this, whether it is a ball, see, it's just a wee bit too hard to be a ball into Hitate for me. I think he's maybe even shooting, but he's got 4 guys now completely engaging him, which buys a lot of space for Hitate and will buy some space, as we can see, for the kind of supporting attackers that are in the box here as well. The Kilmarnock player intercepts it, but he's done a bad job of maintaining the ball, and Hitate is on the move, he's on his toes. He manages to get there first, of course. It's a nice cutback, and Kenny is got in front of the defender. He's making himself strong here, you can see that, so he knows as soon as the ball gets cut back, he's just tapping it home. And again, one of the things we're always putting a lot of praise on Johnny Kenny for is he looks like a striker. You can tell he practices being a striker, and you can tell in and around this kind of 18-yard area, left foot, right foot, headers, tap-ins, you know, 1v1 kind of chances with the keeper. He's got enough different types of goal to his game, and is a player that has, you know, he definitely has a place in the squad. He opens the scoring here, gets one hand on the wheel for us, and you would say we're off to the races. At this stage of the game now, we lose Sriracha to injury and we gain Kieran Tierney, who I think, like, one of the great things about Tierney, that since he's come back into the team, or just since he's come back in the Martin O'Neill kind of little interim regime that we've had here, is he's been playing some of these really nice deep crosses that we were talking about with JSP and Ralston earlier. But with Tierney, they've just got a lot more purpose on them. They're just arrowed in a little bit more direct. The quality of them is extremely good. And Tierney is one of these players that you know, if you're an opposition team now, you really can't stand off him, because from these areas here, he has been very, very effective at just playing balls into space. And again, even playing up here with Teneke really just gives extra threat down the left-hand side here, where the opposition really need to think about it. And we got a real instant impact from this. You know, one of the rare occasions where we do get Tierney really bombing on and offering that extra kind of support out here to take a man out, to take a runner out of the equation here and buy Teneke a lot more space. We've still got the same 4 players that Teneke's essentially got to navigate around to get some sort of chance away here. But having Tierney making that run takes not just the runner out with him, but as you can see, by the time Teneke's ready to cut inside and engage on the box, it's also made a real impact on the secondary man as well, who's got to think if that ball does go into Tierney, I've got to be aware of it as well. Taneki this time cuts inside from the edge of the box, takes a really nice shot, and this is unlucky not to result in a goal. But again, look at Johnny Kenny making sure he's in front of his man. The ball eventually kind of half rebounds to him, and sadly Daisen Maeda doesn't really get the ball out of his feet. A big opportunity miss, you would say, here to go 2-0 ahead. Tierney and Taneki became a real kind of feature in this game for periods of time. If we were going down the left, there was other players that were very much coming in support, but we get another great opportunity here, really made from very little. If we can just highlight Luke McKeown over here on the edge of the box, we obviously can see Tierney's wanting the ball into this space here, and we know where he wants to get to before playing the ball in here. And Taneki on this occasion plays his underlap, plays his supporting player in here with him, and the ball's eventually going to get crossed in for Luke McKeown to kind of have a bit of a nothing shot, a bit of a nothing effort on goal. But Tierney did put a lot of energy, put a lot of legs into the left-hand side here, and him and Taneki, TNT down the left-hand side there, was definitely striking dynamite. Again, lovely lofted ball from Tierney. His delivery is incredible. It could fall to McKeown, which it does, obviously, in a different position. Maybe somebody like Daisen could maybe be walking onto it a little bit more to try and maybe actually hit it sweeter. McKeown goes for a sort of fallen scissor kick thing. Now this is an occasion where it breaks down. I kind of referenced this earlier, where Hatate gets found to be the deeper of the three wee guy midfield. Now the thing that this midfield should offer us is lots of rotations, lots of versatility, and a lot of energy. All three of them, you know, you would say the main weakness is they are all very similar, you know, where none of them are overtly defensive, none of them are like super attacking, and I think Hatate and McKeown do really try and be more attacking, certainly, and they've got a lot more you know, proof in the pudding in that regard, as it were. But Taneki again gets his man 1v1, and we're looking to play the ball down the left. McGregor decides to open up the game here and like slingshot through, if you remember the graphic from earlier, and I think it was probably his only bad moment in the match, sadly. But he lays it off here. It's a really bad freeze frame, isn't it? But he lays it off here to nobody. Taneki doesn't continue with the run. Nobody's behind him. And Hatate, I think, is always quite capable in these situations of shutting things down. He's normally quite successful. So as this is unfolding, I was quite willing and able and watching out for how does Hatate do. You can see that Trusty is here, very, very high up on the pitch at the moment. Here is David Watson, who ends up making this counter-attack happen, and has actually been thoroughly linked to Celtic in the last week or two. Sadly, we get a bit of a bad situation of defending here between Daisen and Hatate, where they all kind of tackle each other. No one really wins the ball. David Watson is then able to collect it, carrying the ball forward in one touch. He's got the whole defence panicking. Actually, look at this. Kieran Tierney, the deeper of the back four, which is incredible, with that back three now behind him recovering as well. So the offside trap is not going to be happening for us. If they play a killer ball into the striker and he was able to wrong foot Tierney, a really big chance could have opened up here. But David Watson scored a few goals against us in his short career already, and is a player that we've been kind of highlighting here on the channel for the last 2.5 seasons, the last 3 years or so, that if we want to buy young domestic talent in the league, he's certainly a high prospect for that. And over the years he's only got better, and I'm not saying he's amazing and he'll walk into our team or anything like that, but certainly even in a match like this, you think about how effective McKeown has been in a game like this. Players that are up and coming like David Watson, who are younger, you know, can certainly fulfill that type of role, and maybe you get growth out of them. They actually develop as a player. This results in a pretty good chance for Kilmarnock. Ultimately, they don't score it, obviously. Watson maybe just takes one touch too many, doesn't break the offside trap with his man here, and otherwise, his other player that's in support of him, he's just not... He's not got the legs, like, because if you're going to play to this guy, he then needs to kill this space here. He needs to get behind, scales his blind spot, and get into that zone there. So for that to happen, the ball kind of has to go into this zone here, which is not going to happen. This guy's just not got it in him. And now your other pal is offside. So he's just maybe took one touch too many, caught in a wee bit of indecision here. And for Kilmarnock, this is the real nosebleed moments. The few chances in the game you're going to get, do you make the most of them? This is the currency that these teams live and die on, at Celtic Park especially. And yeah, eventually by the time he plays out to his man, you know, Celtic have got a back four, back in the box. Luke McKeown's recovering, and ultimately goes nowhere for Kelly. But yeah, it was a highlight for David Watson. He was in the news this week, so I thought I would just kind of mention that since we were on it. And again, like I was mentioning before, Tierney has got into this situation now where he is a guy you just do not want to give space to at all whatsoever. From the highlight package, I can't remember exactly how we've got into this position, but we've turned the ball from back to front quite quickly, as you can see with where our strikers are and the movements that they're making. And Taneki, from a kind of deeper, more central position, I think we may have been defending a free kick or something, is now looking to try and overlap Tierney, but it's going to be kind of half pointless. It maybe buys a bit of space because these guys need to think about what's going to happen here. But Tierney plays a great ball in early, and again, we've got Kenny and Maeda almost as a little dummy front two up here, both going towards goal, both playing on a man each. And it's a great ball. Tierney's delivery is unquestionable. And if the ball doesn't get intercepted here in the air, it is falling to Daizen Maeda for a tap-in. So it's a very good delivery. Two very good runners in here as well. And again, Kenny getting in front of the man to make sure he gets to the ball. This is something that I just hate lead strikers doing, is getting behind people, trying to ghost in behind them. Like, we've seen instances in this team before with many a striker gone by where you would actually see this player and this player ends up being here. And then the ball's easily cleared and intercepted, and we're bemoaning like our strikers, you know, not getting on the end of crosses and stuff like that. So good cross position from Tierney, great to get on the end of it again from Kenny. And that could have been 2-0 in itself, but you did feel at half time 1-0, you know, we had one hand on the wheel where we're looking pretty good. And, you know, similar to the other day where Martin O'Neill just really felt in the Derby match, he just really wanted that extra goal cushion. You really felt we were going for that. There's maybe a little bit less pressure or negative kind of downward force around that in the game, just because Kilmarnock didn't have as much teeth perhaps as Rangers. And we start the second half very committed to going out there and trying to kill the game and control the game very quickly. And probably the only thing to really super highlight here about Kieran Tierney's goal to make it 2-0 is this world class incredible assist from Liam Scales. It's going to be one of the small pieces of footage we're able to use, but you'll be able to see, in case you missed it in real time, this amazing assist. Hatate is playing the ball across the face here, looking for McGregor or Scales behind him. And look at that from Scales. He just steps the ball over to Tierney, perfectly into his path. Definitely didn't miscontrol it. Now again, this is a little bit of, you know, that kid that was really good at football in your school, that maybe moved away for a year or something like that, and then they came back, and then or one of your friends in the neighbourhood, and you're playing kids down the park, and everyone's like, oh, who's that guy? And it's like, oh, that's Kieran, he used to be here, but he went away, now he's back, and it's like, alright, well, whatever. These guys don't know Kieran Tierney. Tierney likes a shot. Tierney fancies himself in and around the, I'd probably say the 20-yard area to catch people off guard. It's one of the kind of smart things about Tierney is he knows, like on these types of occasions, we've seen him score lots of goals really from this type of zone here in the box and just out with it, where he's either running onto a pass from somebody else, he maybe just keeps going himself and just goes all the way in and smashes it in towards the net, or like this where he just walks onto it and hits it cleanly. And this was, I thought Tierney was playing great to this point, and you really feel that maybe not necessarily he's got a point to prove, but you know, he just wants to be the best Celtic player he can be, and we know he's got world-class potential, he's got world-class abilities. We've seen it in the hoops and on the biggest stages internationally and everything else. And he just absolutely arrows this right into the corner. He takes his shot and he beats the keeper, and it's a great goal to give us 2-0 lead. And when you see this from Tierney, you just, you know that how much that means to him, and that, you know, he as well as McGregor, maybe Tierney's maybe kind of lesser thought about in this kind of whole, you know, drama situation and being the leader position, but Tierney very much is one of us in there. It's one of the things we love about him, and you can see how much that goal meant to him, and it was great for the game because it just felt like it broke any sort of tension that was in the room, and we could now start to, you know, just try and enjoy the game, really flex our muscles a bit more, and get back into that habit of scoring lots of goals. Now, admittedly, the rest of the goals do come very late, and they're not super. Well, I suppose the Maeda goal is very good, actually, isn't it? I'm thinking more just of the penalty, I guess. But we got Ralston come into the game for JSP for the last, how long was that? Maybe 25 minutes or so. And I think you could see with JSP definitely needs to, he's not kicked a ball in anger in however long, so not going to be that 90-minute match fit already. I quite liked the performance we got from JSP in this one. I would be very up for continuing in Alistair Johnston's absence to play Simpson Pussy as the primary right back position here. Treat Trusty, who's got the pace in him, as the sweeper of the three, and tucking in with Scales here. Again, you can just make a lot of use of Tierney. Sirachi's now injured for a little minute. Let's see how long he's going to be out for. But even with Ralston, you do have the ability to just kind of swap that in a way, make Scales the sweeper, bring Tierney in at left centre back. Maybe a part of your problem is all these guys are lefties, and it depends how much you care about that, I guess. But I quite liked what GSP gave us in terms of just extra solidarity. Just he looked bigger than everyone else on the pitch, and just having that extra presence, you know, if the guy he's up against isn't lightning fast and going to do him, then I quite like how that looked. And, you know, let's see it tried again. That's kind of where I'm at with this. and then we got Negren coming on for McKeown. Now, this was, again, rather interesting because Negren, Hatate thought he was coming off when he seen Negren coming on here, but Hatate maintained his role, and Negren coming into the fray here. It was, you know, I don't really think Negren actually did much in this game. I don't think he really got much of a touch of the ball. Maybe it influenced it too much. It wasn't a few opportunities to get some shots away, but nothing really came to him, did it? But then on the 78th minute is probably where we get the subs that make the second half for us. There is Kilmarnock subs. I'm not going to be bothered with them. I'm sorry if you're here for that, but not today. So we take Tunetke off and we bring on Youngster. Now, Yang has not been seen. I thought Bernardo might have featured in this game. We've seen Shin Yamada on the bench. But no, we get Yang into the equation and Johnny Kenny comes off for Arnie, the last action hero, Engels. Now, what happens at this point, of course, is Negren moves into the right wing area and Dyson goes right into centre forward. The next highlight we've got is the actual Maeda goal. As you can see, nothing, you know, was really highlight worthy, I guess. But again, the midfield very close together, even though the two of these guys are maybe moving up a little bit more, moving up the pitch. Engels, when he came on in this game, I know he didn't have long on the match, but again, I just think he's looked so good since he's came back into the team after really been kept out of the team for a period of time. He and Trusty, I've kind of not really spoke on Trusty as much as I'd meant to by this stage, but it feels like both of them, when I'm watching them, you can tell that they're very focused on the match they're in. They're very focused on exactly what's happening right now and making the most out of everything they've got. You know, Trusty had a little Van de Ven moment in this game, for example. In the last game, you remember how he just kind of strided up the park once or twice just through gaps in the opposition and just put them on the back foot more. And you feel that they're very conscious, they're very aware, they're very alert to what's going on right now. And when Engels gets this ball played into him from Ralston, this is straight off the training ground. We've seen Engels play these balls before. I think he had a really good opportunity maybe set up for Nicholas Kuhn against like Leipzig or something. I'm really forgetting. But this is something that we know he has in his arsenal. And he does do better. Maybe similar in some ways to Hatate with unleashing his range of passing, playing with the game in front of him, you know, getting the ball in this situation here where the attack is in front of him, where he himself is not already in the attack. And this ball that he bends through here, again, you could watch it on replay 1,000 times over. And this is the sort of thing, this should be a main feature of what we recognise as Arnie Engels having a good game, or Arnie Engels influencing the game, getting the ball from a deep position here and just killing the team, opening them up and playing in one of our strikers, one of our forward players into some sort of shooting opportunity or at least some sort of counter-attack situation. Again, inch-perfect ball. Dyson Maeda takes 2 touches before finishing it. And like I mentioned before, I'm really pleased to see Dyson score this goal because he's had a goal coming. He's been such a big player for us over the last like 3, 4, 5 years, whatever the hell it is at this point. And everyone feels this is his last season. Everyone feels that kind of elephant in the room. Every goal, every game could be his last kind of vibe. Especially when he was like injured with some Brendan-itis recently, but you know, kind of back at action now under Martin O'Neill and everything else. Great kind of, again, kind of stormbreaker goal for him. Really happy to see it. A very typical Dyson goal. And again, he's getting that playing through the middle. Great ball from Engels. This is what I mean. He doesn't ever celebrate. See, earlier this season when we were chatting about his celebrations, and you were maybe thinking, like, Cam doing when he was celebrating a goal. This is what normally happens when Dyson scores. He's just like, whatever, man. But Yang off the bench might be the biggest surprise. Alongside Callum Osmonds and Johnny Kenny's and everything else, JSP, Yang comes into the game and gets a few moments of being typically Yang. We've mentioned a lot of Tunetke in this video, and one thing that we can see from Tunetke is he can beat a guy, but we can also see that he has that eye for a pass and that eye for a shot. It's not always quite come off for him, but he's maybe just a little bit off of getting it right. The thing with Yang is that part hasn't looked like it's a little bit off, it's kind of looked like, has he got it? But Yang, starting in this kind of position here, on the left-hand side, how many left wing problems do we need? With 2 guys around him, goes wide, isolates one, drives all the way into the box and buys an absolute textbook penalty, which, you know, you'll love to see a little bit of desperate defending from that in the last embers of the game. You'll love to see somebody like Yang come off the bench, you know, and really, I don't know if I would say grab the game, but you know, grab the ball and let's have a run at it. Let's have a go. Show me what you can do, son, in that wee Martin O'Neill voice. And in the post-match, we got a little bit of confirmation that Martin O'Neill might have just joined the Yang gang.
Great. And the final, for the penalty kick there, that was his ability to go past the players was terrific. So I'm genuinely learning all the time, you know.
He's learning about the Yang gang. Don't know if that's good or bad news to some of you guys out there. But there we go. When it was all said and done, we won by 4-0. And some really interesting comments coming from Martin O'Neill in the post-match press conference. You maybe feel that he is, I don't want to say getting comfy, but he's thinking a little bit further ahead. He went and scouted St Mirren recently, and you've got to think and feel that he is expecting any day for the phone call to come, like, we don't need you anymore, Martin. But I think he's also acutely aware of, we are winning, and they will not be in a rush to get rid of me. So let's just prepare as if we're going to be here now for the next little chapter of the season and do our best with the role. So love to see Martin kind of sitting up in his chair a little bit, if I can say such a thing respectfully. But yeah, if we have a look at the player ratings of performances for this game here, a lot of massive performers. Liam Scales coming out with a perfect 100 out of 100 score thanks to that world class assist in this game. He also picked up 44 points in all around score, which means he made 7 effective clearances in this game. He made 1 tackle. So not a mad defence. Kelly didn't really ask his big questions in this one. He won 5 duels, lost 4, which is net 1, which isn't great, but again, low volume, so no big deal. 86 accurate passes, 7 long balls into the opposition. He only missed 2 passes in the entire match. And from the attacking point of view, he played 2 balls that eventually made it into the box. No other kind of output from Scaldini there. Right behind him, but was man of the match, Austin Trusty, who didn't have a world-class assist to boost his score up. He got 56, basically 57 points of all-around score. He gave away a foul, which took some points off of him here. But similar to Scales, 7 effective clearances, 1 tackle, but in possession, look at this, he won 9 duels, didn't, he lost 2, so positive 7, fantastic, nice interception there as well. In possession, won and lost, he was very good in that kind of sweepery role, in that kind of quasi back three that we did have in the game. 98 accurate passes for him, 22 of them long passes into the opposition. Again, big man was on it today, and Trusty is really, like I said, you feel he's been made a better player through trial and tribulation recently, don't you? Right in and behind him was Rio Hitate, who quietly put together a very comprehensive attacking performance. He gets the goal assist, of course, for the opening goal with Johnny Kenny. But normally when we look at Hitate's statistics, he was fouled once, he gave away 2 fouls. We normally see a lot of defensive stuff, like blocks and tackles. There's none of that. We actually don't really see too much in the duel front anyway, to be quite honest with you, so that's not really a change. We do get 1 interception, but we get a massive increase on Hitate compared to what we've normally seen from him in final third passes, in attempted assists, in big chances created. These are the sort of balls we want Hitate to be playing, and he does do them, but the volume in this game is way up on what we normally see from him. He was much more of an attack-based player, and although we did see, and we highlighted in the highlight package, yes, he did recover and defend on occasion. He was very much more the attacking midfielder all the way throughout. In games earlier this season, we've even seen, although sometimes he would be very attacking, his role changes as the game goes on, and you would see him go deeper, and the rotation would be much slower and a bit more like clocking in and out for a shift rather than just reading the game and attacking spaces and telling your opponent to cover you and telling, that kind of thing. So 1 dribble, 1 contest, 8 balls from Hitate made it into the box. His volume and success rate was really up on this game, and 87 out of 100 is a great score for him. We then get a batch of 60s and stuff like that. Schmeichel is worth a shout, who I think is really, I thought it was quite cringy, the Martin O'Neill kind of talking about his dad comment before the Midgetland game, but it's maybe done something to wake him up a little bit. He's been really good. He didn't really need waking up, but feels like he's got better since Martin O'Neill came in, is kind of what I'm trying to say here. He got 24 accurate passes in this game, 1 missed pass, 10 accurate long balls. He made 1 save, 1 good high claim, 1 punch. Nice little bit of goalkeeping there from the big man. Daizen Maeda comes out with a flat 60 just by virtue of scoring his goal here. Outside of that, not that many positive actions. He lost possession 15 times, lost 8 duels, only won 4. So net, that's -4. It's not good, especially for the volume. If it was higher volume and what was about there, you'd probably get away with it. 7 balls in the final third, 23 accurate passes, 2 shots, a big chance missed. It was a real striker game rather than a winger game for Daizen, so I can probably just about live with this output. We did see a lot of energy being expelled, and he was in a lot of good positions, and caused the opposition a lot of problems, which bought space for other players, etc. He was fouled twice, gave away 3 fouls, picked up a booking, which is always hilarious when he gets booked, but it's always pretty harsh, isn't it? McGregor comes out with this with a 62 without any sort of goal involvement, no goal, no assist, anything like that. A pretty complete performance again from the captain. He did give away a foul and get booked. He was laughing about that when it happened. He won 2 tackles, he won 3 duels, only lost 1, net gain of 2, very low volume, but I guess with the ratio you can live with that, can't you? 77 accurate passes, 22 of them in the final third, 1 attempted assist, 2 balls into the box. Not really much final third stuff from McGregor in this one. And Johnny Kenny, the other player, breaking into that 60 range by virtue of scoring his goal. But from an attacking point of view, you get 2 shots away on target, 1 or 2 off target that resulted in corners and stuff like that. Goalkeeper tipping it over the edge of the post and stuff. 8 passes, 4 of them in the final third. Not many actual involvements on the ball. Duels won and lost. Again, very low volume. Striker versus 2 defenders. Not going to hold that against him personally. And yeah, it is what it is. If we have a look at the bench, we obviously have some great performances here from Kieran Tierney, who came on after 20 minutes, so essentially was as good as a starting player. He got his goal, of course, but on top of that, KT also won a tackle, made 6 effective clearances, gave away a foul. His duels were net 0, so 3 and 3, that's kind of fine. But look at this, 55 accurate passes, 19 of them final third balls, 3 balls into the 3 accurate long balls, 8 long balls into the box, into the opposition across this game as well. 1 shot on target, 1 dribble, 7 balls all the way into the box as well. So great output from Tierney here, complete left back effort. And Arnie Engels off the bench for 12 minutes, goal and an assist is absolutely mega on the statistics here. Very little actual stats happened in the game for him. 1 possession once, made 1 interception, 11 passes, 3 of them into the final third. 1 of them got into the box. He had 1 shot on goal, which was the penalty. And Youngster off the bench to get a penalty won, which is a positive decisive action, which means he finishes the game on a 67 himself. He was fouled for the penalty won, of course. He won 3 duels, didn't lose any. I think that was on that 1 dribble. Really, everything was on this 1 dribble. 3 accurate passes, the exception. Negren, Ralston, McCowan all did quite okay without doing anything spectacular in this game. But let's look at Taneke, who I felt was quite vibrant in this game, although didn't really actually get the assist of the goal, etc. But what actually happened for him, he was fouled. Possession lost, 24 balls. It just didn't connect with another Celtic player, is very high, and with not anything else to back it up is bad. 10 duels lost, only 2-1. Success rate very low. Pass count is nice and high, and he's actually done quite a good bit of work here in the final third. He got a shot away. He did okay, didn't he? But I think when you're engaging this much and when you're on the ball this much, he really should have gave us something a bit more tangible coming out of this game. Maybe similar to Scales though. He'll get one of these cheap ones later on in the season and it'll maybe kind of force majeure, kind of balance itself out or whatever. But a good performance from the Hoops, I think. Statistically, the boys put in some good numbers. I think it was a great game to watch as well. It was pleasing on the eye. It was great to see some action, some goals come from the bench. And yeah, I think it was a really enjoyable match overall. But now coming out of this game into the international break, JSP is in the building because Alistair Johnson and Aussie Callum Osmond is away for hamstring surgery. Marcelo Sirache, who finished this game on a 41, has also got a hamstring injury, as of yet undetermined how severe. We know Vickers is out for ages. Jota is in the building, but I don't think we can expect him back imminently. So our only right back is now Ralston, maybe Simpson Pussy. I'm happy to have that conversation. And our only left back is Tierney or Inamura. Again, I'm happy to have that conversation. He wasn't on the bench, but Shin Yamada was on the bench here, and alongside Kenny Maeda getting shifted through the middle. You know, we are very quickly getting into the deepest of the depths here of the depth chart, you know, as we look at the full thing here. Iheanacho might be back after he should be back after the international break, but probably not straight away. So with really even the midfield dynamic evolving that we've spoke about in some recent videos, as well as the the injury list ever growing, there is a lot to think about, there is a lot to talk about, and this international break in so many ways probably couldn't come at a better time for everyone involved in Celtic, from the players all the way to the chairman or the shareholders, etc. And on the channel we'll be looking at the squad, we'll be looking at the managerial hunt, we'll be looking at prospective transfers we should be maybe trying to get ahead of time on, ahead of January, because it's very clear we have to do a lot of business, so plenty of content to get stuck into. I think my big takeaway from the game, just to kind of wrap up on, I did say 4-0 on Twitter, I think I said it on the preview video as well. Trusty was exceptional and I do want to give him a bit of limelight here, but I think for me, especially going back and analysing the game, I think Tierney is the real winner of this game. It was really great to see his performance in this one. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on all that in the comment section down below. Big takeaways for the weekend and everything we're going to be talking about in the international break. Even feel free to suggest topics in the comment section. I'm always happy to engage with you guys in any sort of hot topic you want to wrestle with. Let's try and do it if it's something that we can jam with. On screen now is some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Hail, hail, and Mon the Hoops.